Welcome to my world. Come on in and make yourselves at home. Welcome to my life. I know everything's gonna be all right. Welcome to my world. Oh, won't you come on in? Welcome to my life. It's known as the Tiger's Den. Greetings to all of my subscribers. I want to thank you for being with me for as long as you have, and the new subscribers that's coming on in. We want to say greetings and thank you for your time. This is from Toothless and the moderators. Welcome to the Tiger's Den. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us who we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I failed, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of takes you to a lonely place, find yourself in love. Greetings and welcome to the Tiger's Den. This is the voice of Cheryl, and I am Toothless Tiger. Greetings to all. I'm trying to say my last little greetings to Phyllis before I start talking. Y'all know I can't type too fast, but I'm coming. All right, let me just do roll call. My Adria, she's probably asleep, but she's going to come in here and try to take care of us when she can. And I'm not going to wake her up. Hey, I am Jay. Good to see you. Esar, I ain't playing. Carolyn M, good to see you again, Carolyn. Regina M, glad you made it. Phyllis, I hate we lost, but like you said it was a good game, so I'll take that. That's all right, Esar. We know you out there doing your thing. Just keep working. Okay, everybody, we're going to go back. We're going to go back and visit some things. I've been looking at a lot of different things on YouTube, and lately I've been looking at Congress. I've been looking at the legislature, the House, and then Congress when they're in session. And these are old videos, and it is amazing how the people really act. And these are the people that we chose to send to represent us. You know, it used to be a republic form of government, not the Republican Party, the republic form of government, meaning that the people are free and unencumbered. And the people chose a few people to speak for them with other nations. That's what it was all about. Then, of course, we had when Congress adjourned sine die in 1861, and it kind of changed everything because coming back on 1871, we had the Organic Act of Congress, and the democracy was introduced to the world. A lot of different things happened. And one of the things that happened to us that was really bad, I would say it was bad. Maybe some would say it's good. We all have our own, thoughts. But I thought about if we were never taught, how do we have the thought? We can't formulate a thought that we don't know we need to think. Although the mind is very deep, it is. And it's a terrible thing to waste. It's a storehouse of memory. And we need to tap back into that memory. I got to looking at the way those people were acting, and I'm like, if the children are our future, and we're not even preparing any of the children to even want to go and represent us as a people, what are we going to be left with? One day I'm not going to be here, and children are going to still be born, and they're going to be, growing up. And I would just like to think that they have a better opportunity than the one that we had, even though we had a better one than our ancestors. And then sometime I ask myself, or did we? But I gave you guys some homework, and I don't know if anybody looked up any of the words that I gave you guys, but I have the definitions. I do know one person looked it up, and I don't see her right now, but I know she worked hard on her homework, and that was Crystal. She really did work hard on her homework, and I am proud of her for just putting forth the effort. So I want to start out with the question, and I want everybody that can answer the question to answer it. And that question I want to ask is, what are the branches of government? Do anyone know the branches of government? The people that make the decisions on our lives every day. Anybody, everybody that may know the answer, what are the branches of government? Please put it in the chat for me. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're going back to school tonight, just for a little while. I won't keep you long. Phyllis said there are 3. That is correct. There are 3 branches of government. Okay, anybody care to name the 3 branches of government? Anybody, everybody, nobody? We have 7 people in the chat. So, yes, Asatar named 1. Asatar, be careful. We got you. Asatar named 1. We have 2 more. Asatar named the 2nd, judicial, and Phyllis named the 3rd, executive. That is correct. Now, in case somebody might not know the function of these branches, just consider this a tree with 3 branches. And you know how we hear about separation of powers. The United States government is divided into 3 parts or branches: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Each branch has a different duty, but all 3 branches must work together. The legislative branch is in charge of making laws. It is made up of the Congress and several government agencies. Congress has 2 parts: the House of Representatives and the Senate. Members of the House of Representatives and the Senate are voted into office by American citizens in each state. There are currently 100 senators, 435 representatives, 5 delegates, and 1 resident commissioner. The Government Publishing Office and Library of Congress are examples of government agencies in the legislative branch. These agencies support the Congress. So that's Congress duties. And we're getting ready for an election year next year. And everybody say vote, vote, vote. But do you know how to vote and who to vote for? We're going to try to learn a little bit. The executive branch. The executive branch of our government is in charge of making sure that the laws of the United States are obeyed. The President of the United States is the head of the executive branch. The President gets help from the Vice President, department heads called cabinet members, and heads of independent agencies. Here are some of the things those people do. The president leads the country and commands the military. The military. The vice president becomes president if the president can no longer do the job and is also president of the Senate. Department heads advise the president on issues and help carry out decisions made by the government. Independent agencies also help carry out decisions made by the government to provide special services. Then it says, one, make the laws, one, checks the laws, and one, make sure the laws are carried out. There are checks and balances to make sure things run smoothly, right? That's the way it's supposed to go. But I wonder, do it actually go that way? Now, the words that I speak are from written documentation and my opinion. They do not necessarily reflect the views of YouTube or anyone affiliated with YouTube. These are just my expressed opinions and thoughts and the knowledge that I've acquired from reading and researching to bring this information to you guys. There is so much that we don't know, that we take for granted, that we do know. And I just want to show you a different way of testing your own knowledge. The Judicial Branch. The Judicial Branch is in charge of deciding the meaning of laws, how to apply them to real situations, and whether a law breaks the rules of the Constitution. The Constitution is the highest law of our nation. The U.S. Supreme Court, the highest court in the United States, is part of the Judicial Branch. The Supreme Court is made up of 9 judges called justices, who are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. The justices hear cases that have made their way up through the court system. The main task of the Supreme Court is to decide cases that may differ from the United States Constitution. Once the Supreme Court makes a decision in a case, it can only be changed by a later Supreme Court decision or by changing or amending the Constitution. This is a very important power that can affect the lives of many. Also, all federal judges, which includes the Supreme Court, have lifetime appointments. And they gave them those appointments so that they can ensure that they would be fair and just. They're called Article 3 judges. They want to make sure that they know that they have a job and they have income to provide for their families, because they have to make decisions that some people are not going to be favorable to. But they are supposed to be fair and impartial, and what they call bipartisan, meaning that they don't have one particular side that they're going for, even though in latter years you hear, well, the Democratic president nominated this person and the Republican president nominated that person or appointed that person, or whatever the situation may be. But you're going to have one or two of them in office. So at any time a seat becomes vacant, whoever is in office is going to have the duty to, present a judge before the Congress. But they have no vested interest in either party. That's true of all federal judges throughout the land. Federal judges, how do we get federal judges? Let's look up some things that I found out, starting with the United States. The United States, and this is coming from Henry Campbell's Black's Law Dictionary. The term has several meanings. It may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of other sovereigns in family of nations. It may designate territory over which sovereignty of the United States extends, or it may be collective name of the states which are united by and under the Constitution. And one thing about the older law dictionaries, they give you case law so that you can look it up and it explains what it means. Hooven and Allison Company v. Ebbett, U.S., Ohio. 6-5 Supreme Court. It has SCT 870-8830. And that tells you the pages where they're located. Actually, those are the citations. 34 U.S. 65289 LED 1252. If you put those numbers in your search engine, you will be able to pull up that case. Esar said, in my opinion, the most important and impactful thing a president does is nominate Supreme Court justices. I guess that's one way to look at it, Esar. Now, let's deal with something here. The Constitution. Do anybody know how many articles there are in the Constitution for the United States? I'll give y'all a minute or two to guess or no, write the answer. How many articles are there to the U.S. Constitution? If you don't know, you can take a guess. Okay, looks like nobody's guessing. So it's 7 articles to the Constitution. And tonight I want to talk about Article 1, Section 8. One thing I've come to know is that everything that is done in the United States is done in business. It's called commerce. And if you don't know that, then that's probably why we have problems that we have. I think if more of us were more knowledgeable of how the government was ran, or we should say run, then we would know how to actually function in the society. A lot of people think it's a lot of different things that cause a lot of different problems. But the majority of our problems as individuals and individual is a term, unbeknownst to us, that's not what you think it is. Phyllis is correct. There are 7 articles. We went over several of the articles back before I was blatantly attacked. And I kind of switched gears. But I'm like Whitehead, ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move. Doesn't matter what nobody's saying, what they do. We're going to do what I came here to do, and that is to share. We're going to do Article 1, Section 8. Something about when I hear that Section 8 just rings a bell. Phyllis said, it has been said, the more you know, the more you grow. Knowledge is power. And that's true. Thank you, I am Jay. Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imports, and excise. Now listen to that. Taxes, duties, imposts, and excise. To pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excise shall be uniform throughout the United States. And I don't know if you all are familiar with the UCC connection, and that's the Uniform Commercial Code. It is very important that you take you a few notes and do a little research. Remember, these little things that we communicate on and look at our IG and go on our Facebook and do all of that good stuff are computers. And all we have to do is ask them question. Google so-and-so and so-and-so. And 9 times out of 10, Google is going to give us an answer. And if it's not the answer that we seek, perhaps our question wasn't quite right. So just re-ask the question as many ways, as many times as you must. And then sometimes you're going to ask and you're not going to get the answer that you seek. You're going to get the answer. Thank you, Carolyn. I shall. Can't wait till you come back. We need you out here. Authenticity is the best thing you can give yourself. To thine own self be true. And I guarantee you, if you're true to yourself, you'll be true to everybody you meet, whether they like it or not. But you got to do things in harmony. You got to do things in honor. You can't be out here doing wrong and talking about you're going to get a blessing with your name on it. You're going to get something with your name on it, but your name is going to be a number. And you're going to be put back into what is known as servitude or / slavery. It's happening every day in penitentiaries all over. We'll just visit the 13th Amendment and it'll let us know about that. You see, a lot of things are written for us to know, but we don't know that we need to know because a lot of things we were not taught. Great, Esar. You're right. Right on time. So now listen to this, y'all, so y'all can really get an understanding of what I'm about to tell you guys about this great place that we call America. Congress has the power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. To regulate commerce. That's the key word, commerce, with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Now, what we must learn, Congress has the power to regulate commerce. Everything pretty much in this world is done in commerce. Now, when the Moors they taught that we did the first Constitution and we gave permission for individuals to do commerce on our land. Then, of course, we were overtaken and colonized. Commerce today is just like commerce was 400 years ago. It's just been covered up and it's talked about in a different way. Remember, there was a time when we were not allowed to read. And then once we were able to read, we were given certain things to read. And so we didn't know how many books that are out there. But Solomon, the king, said, there is no end to writing books. So, people writing books every day. The Honorable Noble Drew Ali said, the way that you changed the mind of the people, hey, Madria, you made it. I knew you were asleep. The way you change the mind of a people is you change the literature in which they read. Reading has gotten to be tricky these days. See, if you didn't learn to read by the time you were in the 3rd grade, then you got a problem. Because from kindergarten to the 3rd grade, of course, we're learning to read. And from the 4th grade until we die, we're reading to learn. And is there ever so much for us to learn? And I promise you, knowledge is power. The only thing about that is you have to look at how much power you seek, because power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. But if you learn discipline, self-discipline, self-love, and self-worth, then you can balance the power. You can balance the power. We do it every day. Most of us don't go out committing crimes. Most of us don't. Some of us do. And we don't know what causes a person to make the decision to commit that crime. We don't know. We can guess. And we can come out and talk about it and come up with an idea. We know the conditions in which a lot of people live are less than desirable. And it's not because they don't want more. They don't know better. And there's a saying everybody loves to say, that when you know better, you do better. And we've become complacent in not knowing and not having and being dependent on a government that seems to hide things from us. That's not the way it was supposed to be. It's not designed for that. They go to represent us, not we worship them. They are our servants. And we tell them as a people how it's supposed to be done. Unfortunately, it's too many of the people didn't know that we had that kind of power. And so now we're stuck in the situations that we are. But if we want this thing to turn around, we got to train some children in the way they should go. And we got to train them to want to be rulers and leaders. See, we don't have kings and queens. That's a monarchy. We don't have that. And I'm going to talk about that the next time we get together. See, a lot of us don't have a clue about politics. We don't know anything about capitalism or anything about communism or fascism or Marxism. We don't have a clue about any of that stuff. We don't know when people have those conversations what they're speaking of. And I'm not talking about all of us. I'm just talking about most of us. And most of us, I do mean most of us. For one person to obtain absolute power is called a dictatorship. You see there? Regina just added to the conversation. Oh, how I love when you add to the conversation. Congress has the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Naturalization, we need to visit that word, and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and foreign corn, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Weights and measures are very important, and most of us haven't a clue. We learn a little bit of that when we're in school. But once we leave school with what they taught us, most of us forget it. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coins of the United States. Hey, Crystal. To establish post offices and post roads. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited time to authors and inventors to the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Now, I don't know if you guys recall. Now, you just heard what they said Congress has the right to do. If you all recall me sharing with you, the Education Board back in 1902, set forth by Frederick T. Gates and J.D. Rockefeller, one of the things they said for us that they were going to ensure that we didn't have any writers. Hold on 1 minute. Let me find that Education Board. There you go. Let's hear what they said. The philosophy. This is the founders of the General Education Board, John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, 1902. It says, in our dreams, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. The present education conventions fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folk. We should not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, editors, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. The task we set before ourselves is very simple, as well as a very beautiful one. And listen to this, y'all. To train these people as we find them to a perfectly ideal life just where they are. We can't allow that to continue. We just can't do it. So we will organize our children and teach them to do in a perfect way the things that their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way. They don't feel like they're doing good enough. In the homes, in the shops, and on the farm. That is the doctrine of the General Education Board, and it has not changed since 1902. There's still subjects that we're not taught in our schools in inner cities. We got to understand what's happening. The world is based in business. So that implies to me that we have to be business minded. There is a rich man who says, own nothing but control everything. The way you do that is you have it in your business or your trust. We don't know anything about trust. We don't think we have anything to put in a trust, but everything that you think you own, your clothing, your children, your home, your automobile, whatever it is that you think that belongs to you is worthy of being in a trust. Now, I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice, but I do have enough sense and I can discuss legal subjects. The Constitution affords me the opportunity to do that. One of the things that the attorneys have done, let me just let you all hear what this young man who wrote The UCC Connection, How to Free Yourself from Legal Tyranny, is one of the things he said that made a whole lot of sense. And I know it's true because when I do a lot of legal research, we're limited to some of the law that we can access. If you're not a high profile, big money making attorney, you can't even afford Westlaw. And that's where most of all of the information is. But they do have law libraries in every state, some in every city. Some are better than others. Some are more equipped than others. But let me just share this little bit, what he said in his foreword. He said, forward, this is slightly condensed, casually paraphrased transcript of tapes of seminar given by Howard Freeman in 1990. It was prepared to make available Mr. Freeman's knowledge and experience in his search for an accessible and understandable explanation of the confusing state of the government and the courts. It should be helpful to those who want to develop a deeper understanding of this information without having to listen to 3 or 4 hours of recorded material. The frustrations many Americans feel about our judicial system can be overwhelming and often frightening. And like most fear, it is based on the lack of understanding or knowledge. Those of us who have chosen a path out of bondage and into liberty are faced eventually with the seemingly tyrannical power of some governmental agency and the mystifying and awesome power of the courts. We have been taught that we must get a good lawyer, but that is becoming increasingly difficult, if not impossible. If we are defending ourselves from the government, we find that the lawyers quickly take our money and then tell us as the ship is sinking, I can't help you with that. I am an officer of the court. And that is true. The attorneys have bar numbers. See, what I have come to know is that there is a private person and there is a public system. We are supposed to be private individuals with unalienable rights. The Constitution doesn't give us rights. It is supposed to secure our rights and protect us when anybody violates our rights. Of course, we know company policy guides a lot of things. It's just like here on YouTube. They're not responsible for anything that the people say or publish on YouTube, but yet you can violate their guidelines by just being honest and telling the truth. Well, I know I don't own a platform, and as long as I'm allowed to be on the platform, I'm not giving out false information. Anybody can research and read whatever I say, but I'm going to just tell the truth as long as I can tell it. And one thing my daddy taught me, and I seen it happen to several of the men that tried to free us, and I'm talking about all people of this status, has nothing to do with the color of your skin, the race. It's only one, the human race, nationality, ethnicity. Oh, those are barriers. Those are things that make us at odds with each other. It has to do with being human. And you have to know if you are a human, a man or a woman, if you are a person or individual, which is a fictitious entity. You see, when I introduced YouTube to social constructs, a lot of people repeat it, but I don't know if they actually looked into what that meant. A lot of things in our system is artificial. And it goes back with color. You know, they call us colored. We have colorable law. Let's look at the definition of color in the legal law dictionary. Color, an appearance, a semblance, or a simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real. A prima facie or apparent right. Hence, a deceptive appearance, a plausible, assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality, a disguise or a pretext. And then, like I said, with the older dictionaries, this is a Henry Campbell's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, the one that I offer to give away every time I'm on here, and nobody seems to want it, but I have it available in PDF form for anyone who's interested in learning about how to free themselves and how to live a life that's comfortable, that the constitutions of each one of our states affords us, as well as the Constitution for the United States of America. You see, because I've read it before and I'll share again, there are 3 different constitutions. And if you don't understand about the United States, whenever you see U.S., United States, that's the government, that's public. We are Americans. We can call ourselves American Indians, American Moors, American Armenians, American Mexicans. We can call ourselves Americans, whatever. Because, you know, people kind of tend to forget that Mexico is on the continent of America. Canada is on the continent of America. They have us so confused and so at odds with one another. We don't even know how to hold decent conversations and talk about real issues. But let me go on with what he was saying. Ultimately, the only way for us to ever have a snowball chance is to understand the rules of the game and to come to an understanding of the true nature. And that is very important. The true nature of the law. See, they take us away from the nature. In criminal cases, when they are taking someone and charging them, they never explain the nature and the cause. And when you ask those questions, they consider you defiant. And if you don't know how to respond, then you too can end up back on the plantation, locked up. It could happen to any of us. But we can't be afraid to live. After all, this is America, right? The land of the free, they say. The home of the brave. I say the land of the free and the home of the slave. As we will find out about the fees a little later. The lawyers have established and secured a virtual monopoly over this area of human knowledge by implying that the subject is just too difficult for the average person to understand. And by creating a separate vocabulary out of English words of otherwise common usage, they're known as legalese. While it may at times seem hopelessly complicated, it is not that difficult to grasp. Are lawyers really as smart as they would have us believe? I think not. One of the things that is written in the Sun book, if you seek knowledge, seek wisdom, seek the Creator, you shall find and receive. But you got to do the seeking. It's an individual thing. The stuff that I talk about is an individual thing. And it works collectively when we're all going toward the same place. And you got to have honor and integrity to do it. Don't mean you couldn't have made mistakes. We all fall short of other people's expectations, sometimes even our own. We all have done some things that we're not proud of, and perhaps they're not illegal or unlawful, or it could be one or the other. It just didn't happen that we got caught. Who knows? You know, sometimes you can kill a person just with the tongue that's written. You can kill their spirit, their joy, their desire. You can do that in the manner in which you speak and the words you choose to use. Besides, anyone who has been through a legal battle against the government with the aid of a lawyer has come to realize that lawyers know procedure and not law. And we can teach ourselves law. Y'all, it's written so that we can know. It is written. 1 John says that. It is written so that you may know. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to guess. You don't have to rely on somebody else. Sometimes you may need an attorney. But don't you want to know what he knows or she knows? Don't you want to know if the law he's speaking about is the law that you need? Because I learned in my research and fighting for myself that it's two things that's never going to enter the courtroom: the truth and the law. Oh, they'll be talking about law, but I guarantee you it won't be what you need. You got to kind of help them out, because remember, they work for you. You don't work for them. And many of us give people our money that we hire, and we're afraid to tell them what to do. No, you don't hire someone and then they tell you the way it goes. Because trust me, when it comes to legal matters, the only person that's going to be affected by the outcome of the decision is going to be you. And if you don't know enough about what's going on and don't care about what's going on, then whatever you get, that's what you get. Time is too far spent. And a lot of us aunties and mamas, we're now the senior citizens. And we're on the other side of 50, going toward 100. So if we don't start talking to the babies and teaching them the truth that we've learned, how will they know? It ain't enough to just pray and the Lord gonna fix it. That's not enough. You have sense. You have a mind. You have three, as a matter of fact. One functions in the head, one in the heart, and one in the gut. And you have to rely on all three. You got to put something in all three. And again, it starts with self-discipline. It starts with honor and integrity. That means truth-telling. As much as lie within you, you do what you can to keep the peace. Don't worry about what the people say. The people are going to say. The people don't even know what they're saying. That's why Jesus said, forgive them, for they knew not what they do. But they all cheered. Kill him, kill him, kill him. Oh, they cheered. The people. We see that on YouTube. All you got to do is go into the most jumping chats and you'll see it. You'll hear it. The lies, the innocence being lost, and the people cheer it, and they give. Or they don't have a problem donating to destruction. They don't care about hurting people's families, putting their children up, saying some of the most dastardly stuff that they can say, calling people's parents and relatives, talking about, I know you don't like them, so could you get on YouTube and give me an interview? I mean, these people have really gone past the point of no return, but who can do anything about that but us? And I know many ain't gonna tune in to old Toothless, but one day you probably gonna wish you had. And that's why I keep my videos up, in case that day come for you and you need to know, what would Toothless do in this situation? You see, she's already won $13 million already. And she does everything in her power to share what she's learned throughout her 65 years of life. You know, some say I wasn't going to make it, but I am 65 now and truly grateful. Crystal, I've already said it. You were not here, but I'm so proud of you because I know you did your homework. I haven't gotten to the words yet. I didn't want to start without you. But I know what you had to deal with today, so it is good. He went on to say, besides, anyone who has been through, I just read that. I'm going to read it again, though, because I started it. Besides, anyone who has been through a legal battle against the government with the aid of a lawyer has come to realize that lawyers know procedure and not law. Then answered one of the lawyers and said unto him, Master, thus saying thou reproachest us also. And he said, Woe unto you also, ye lawyers, for ye laid men with burdens grievous to be borne, and ye yourselves touch not the burdens with one of your fingers. Woe unto you lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You entered not in yourselves, and them that were entering in ye hindered. That's Christ teaches his disciples at Luke 11:45 through 52. You can read it for yourself. Besides, Anyone who has been through a legal battle against the government with the aid of a lawyer has come to realize that lawyers learned about procedure, not about law. Mr. Freeman admits that he is not a lawyer, and as such, he has a way of explaining law to us that puts it well within our reach. Consider also that the framers of the Constitution wrote in language simple enough that the people could understand, specifically so that it would not have to be interpreted. Isn't that something? One thing I learned, and I've been looking at this gentleman who's very, very deep, and his name is Yusuf L. If anybody want to check him out, they can, but he's awesome, and I've been learning. But it's one thing that he told us that I wanted to share with you guys. I just thought about it when I read this about the language and being so simplified. And then it's another gentleman that he had on a video on his show. He's a sheriff here in Texas, and he explained to us about what I'm going to talk to you guys about in a short. And he said, don't ever read a statute and assume or presume that you know the meaning of the words. Don't ever do it, because you're going to be mistaken. These words are called legalese. They're everyday common words, but in law they have a different meaning. Why is that so? I can't answer, other than for them to have a monopoly. I don't know if you all remember at one time when AT&T had a monopoly on the telephone services, and especially long distance calling. They made all the money. And it wasn't until back in 1985, 86, when Judge Green knocked down the monopoly of AT&T. I remember that because I worked for U.S. Telecom, long distance service. And we were one of the first companies that offered long distance. And you had to use those big, long 10-digit numbers with the code and all that. Yeah. There's been many monopolies. And that happens for a reason. We, the people, allow that to happen because we don't know enough about the politic that's ruling our world, that's ruling us as a people. We don't know how the people that we vote for vote when they vote in Congress or in the legislature. And that's in the state level as well as the federal level. We have to do better. Even though the children are under the age of voting, we should teach them the principle of voting. We should teach them the meaning of voting. Perhaps they don't go through the Constitution and those things. And if they do, they breeze through them, because I remember civics was like, to me, a 30-minute class. Perhaps they taught us longer than 30 minutes, but that's about all I remember of civics. This is just basic civics. This is not me trying to be an attorney. This is not me trying to give anybody legal advice. This is just stuff we should have learned in in junior high school and high school. Phyllis said, that's true. They have their own language, and you must speak their language. She's learned that a lot in fighting her case for the past 6 years. And by George, I think when she did this appeal, she really got a real comprehension of what's really going on. I'm awfully proud of her. She has almost killed me on several days. All of the researching and staying up and reading and writing, and she had like she didn't know what I was talking about, but I can tell y'all now, by George, she got it. Just like the scripture hid in her heart, she got it. And I tell you, once you get it, nobody can take it from you. Now, you might lose your memory, but again, that's on you. Nobody can take it from you. So again, we find, as in many other areas of life, the buck stops here. It means it stops with you. You have to do something. Remember the you factor that I always talk about? Everything is on you if you want your life to be better, if you want it to be different. Dare to be different. Don't worry about who's coming with you, because guess what? Everybody ain't going to get it, and everybody don't want it. You see, because we're mothers and nurturers, and we love, and we want everybody we love and we know to get it and come go with us. They're not going to want to do that. It's a lot of people say they're tired of the mess. They don't want to be a part of it. Well, I guess they don't want to hear nothing I have to say either, because I offer an alternative to the mess. But it's okay. If you all would get anything out of this that I speak of, it is well with me. Let's look at the color of law. The color of law. The appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. And that's a case called the State v. Breechler, 185 WIS 599, 202 NW 144, 148. And then let's look at the word, the infamous word that they call us, colored. This is in the 4th edition of Black's Henry Campbell's Law Dictionary. Colored. By common usage in America, this term in such phrases as colored persons, the colored race, colored men, and the like is used to designate Negroes or persons of the African race, including all persons of mixed blood descended from Negro ancestry. Collins v. Oklahoma State Hospital, 76 Oklahoma 229 184, page 946 949, 7 ALR 8895, and Theophanis versus Theophanis, 244 KY 68951 SW 2D 957. That's the case law. But where a state constitution provided for separate schools for the white and colored races. Hi, Kelly. The term white race was held to be limited to the Caucasian race, and the term colored races to embrace all other races. That's Rice v. Gonglum, 139 MISS, Mississippi, 706 104 SO 105 107. It has also been held, and please hear what they're saying. It has also been held that there is no legal technical signification to the phrase colored person, which the courts are bound judicially to know. And they give you the case law. Posca versus Dawes, 31 Texas 74. So really, What are we saying here? We have laws within laws that work against us, but we don't have to let it stop us. Remember, everything is in commerce. So what we should be doing is having businesses. You see, we were taught to be great students, get straight A's, go to school every day. That's good. We're trained to work for someone else. But what if you took that same training and did it for yourself? And it's so many things you can do today. You can start a YouTube page and make it a business. You know, people think they're going to interfere with my business because of the stupidity that they play, and they do not. I'm going to continue to come every Wednesday and every Sunday that I feel able to do it. My daddy always taught us to do things while you're yet able, because the time is going to come when you won't be able. So as long as I'm able, I'll be here. Billy said, yes, I did not understand this law stuff, but I keep pushing, and I can tell you it pays not to give up. Crystal says, civics and economics was taught to me in the 11th grade. It fell under social studies. Don't know how it works now. Phyllis said, I wanted to be a lawyer until I didn't. I never knew that. Okay, it goes on to say, it is we who must take the responsibility for finding and putting to good use the truth. It is we who must claim and defend our God-given rights and our freedom from those who would take them from us. It is we who must protect ourselves, our families, and our posterity from the inevitable intrusion into our lives by those who live parasitically off the labor, skill, and talents of others. These people on YouTube sound just like the government, don't they? The intrusion, the invasion. The mess, anarchy that they keep up. And the people run to them and run to them and give to them and support them until the lie gets on them. And then one of them will run away. And then so will the others. One thing Ass always tell me, it's going to be the next big thing next week. Just keep on living. And I put the keep on living because that's what the old folks told us. If you ain't seen it yet, just keep living. You will. And Ass always remind me, just keep looking, Toothless. It's going to be somebody else next week. And man, these people know. They double down. Have nothing to talk about. They're not making money. They're draining people of money. They're getting money. Yeah, they're getting money, but they're not making money off of their talent because they have none. They just talk crazy and put everybody down. Even the people that they're cheering them on, giving them money, they talk about them just as bad as they do me. And they laugh because they, in their mind, he's not talking about me. She's not talking about me. Not me. Yeah, I remember when I thought the same thing. Life will show you what it really is. And say, I know y'all see it. Okay, what he said that he know we see is Kelly stole his hey greeting without giving him his credit. Kelly, he wants his credit. That's all he asks for is his credit. He don't want nothing else. So, Mr. Freeman goes on to say, to these ends, Mr. Freeman offers a simple, hopeful explanation of our plight and a peaceful method of dealing with it. Please take note that this lecture represents one chapter in the book of his understanding, which he is always refining, expanding, improving. It is, as all bits of wisdom are, a point of departure from which to begin our own journey into understanding, so that we all might be able to pass on to others greater knowledge and hope, and to God the gift of lives lived in peace, freedom, and praise. I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. And then he goes on into the introduction and he tells his story. He gives you a plan and a way to handle your business. This is something that's very important to know. Well, really, a lot of this is very important to know. I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of pages. Introduction. When I beat the IRS, I used Supreme Court decisions. If I had tried to use these in court, I would have been convicted. I was involved with the Patriot Group, and I studied Supreme Court cases. I concluded that the Supreme Court had declared that I was not a person required to file an income tax, that the tax was an excise tax on privileges granted by government. So I quit filing and paying income taxes, and it was not long before they came down on me with a heavy hand. They issued a notice of deficiency, which had such a fantastic sum on it that the biggest temptation was to go in with their letter and say, "Where in the world did you ever get that figure?" They claim I owed them $60,000, but even if I had been paying taxes, I never in the world had that much money. So how could I have owed that much? Section 1. Never argue the amount of deficiency. Fortunately, I had been given just a little bit of information. Never argue the facts in a tax case. That's a maxim. Arguments are for fools. If you're not required to file, what do you care whether they say you owe $60 or $60,000? If you're not required to file, the amount doesn't matter. Don't argue the amount. That is an issue of fact. In most instances, when you get a notice of deficiency, it is usually for some fantastic amount. The minute you say, "I don't owe that much," you have voluntarily agreed that you owe them something, and you have just given them jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is one of the most important things that we could ever learn. If you guys would ever take some time, please take some time and just go to any law dictionary. Start with Black's, but you can go with Bouvier's. They have several. And really, really look at jurisdiction. If you have older dictionaries, look up jurisdiction. And one day we're going to talk about jurisdiction because that's very important. And a lot of people miss it. Just don't be shocked at the amount on a notice of deficiency, a NOD. Even if it's $10 million, if the law says that you are not required to file or pay tax, the amount doesn't matter. By arguing the amount, they will just say that you must go to tax court and decide what the amount is to be. By the time you get to tax court, the law issues are all decided. You are only there to decide how much you owe. They will not listen to arguments of law. So I went to see the agent and told him that I wasn't required to file. He said, "You are required to file, Mr. Freeman," but I had all these Supreme Court cases and and I started reading them to him. He said, "I don't know anything about law, Mr. Freeman, but the code says that you are required to file and you're going to pay the amount or you're going to go to tax court." I thought that someone there ought to know something about law. So I asked to talk to his superior. I went to him and got out my Supreme Court cases, and he wouldn't listen to them. "I don't know anything about law, Mr. Freeman." Finally, I got to the problems resolution officer, and he said the same thing. He said that only person above him was the district director. So I went to him. By the time I got to his office, they had phoned ahead, and his secretary said he was out. But I heard someone in his office, and I knew he was there. I went down the elevator around the corner to the federal building and into Senator Simpson's office. There was a girl sitting there at a desk, and she asked me if she could help me. I told her my problem. I said that I really think the district director is up there. I asked her to call the IRS and tell them that it was Senator Simpson's office calling and to ask if the district director is in. I said, "If you get him on the phone, tell him that you are from the senator's office and you have a person whom you are sending over to speak to him. If he is, can he wait just 5 minutes?" It worked. He was there, so I ran back up to his office. His secretary met me when I came in and said, "Mr. Freeman, you're so lucky. The director just arrived." The director was very nice and offered me coffee and cookies, and we sat and talked. So he asked me what I wanted to talk to him about. If you never have someone say to you, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you," watch out. But we can turn that around and approach them in the same way. So I said, "I thought you ought to know that there are agents working for you who are writing letters over your name that you wouldn't agree with. Do you read all the mail that goes out of this office over your signature?" The director said, "Oh, I couldn't read everything. It goes out here by bagful." That was what I thought, I said. "There are some of your agents writing letters which contradict the decisions of the Supreme Court of the United States. And they're not doing it over their name, they're doing it over your name." He was very interested to hear about it and asked if I had any examples. I just happened to have some with me. So I got them out and presented them to him. Supreme Court cases supporting Freeman's position. The director thought it was very interesting and asked if I could leave this information with him, which I did. He said he would look it over and contact me within 3 days. 3 days later, he called me up and said, "I am sure, Mr. Freeman, that you will be glad to know that your notice of deficiency has been withdrawn. We've determined that you're not a person required to file. Your file is closed and you will hear no more from us." I haven't heard another word from them since. That was in 1980, and I haven't filed since 1969. Section 2. The Supreme Court on trial. I thought sure I had the answer, but when a friend got charged with willful failure to file an income tax, he asked me to help him. I told him that they would have to prove that he willfully failed to file, and I suggested that he should put me on his witness stand. He should ask me if I spoke at a certain time and place in Scottsbluff, and I see him in the audience. He should then ask me what I spoke about that day. When I got on the stand, I brought out all the Supreme Court cases I had used with the district director. I thought I would be lucky to get a sentence or two out of before the judge cut me off. But I was reading whole paragraphs and the judge didn't stop me. I read one and then another and so on. And finally, when I had read just about as much as I thought I should, the judge called a recess of the court. I told Bob I thought he had it made. There was just no way that they could rule against him after all that testimony. So relax. The prosecution presented its case, and Bob, decided to rest his case on my testimony, which showed that he was not required to file, and the Supreme Court had held up this position. The prosecutor then presented his closing statements, and we were just sure that he had won. By the very end, the judge spoke to the jury and told them, "You would decide the facts of this case, and I will give you the law. The law required this man to file an income tax form. You decide whether or not he failed it." What a shock. The jury convicted him. Later, some of the members of the jury said, "What could we do? The man had admitted that he had not filed the form, so we had to convict him." As soon as the trial was over, I went around to the judge's office, and he was just coming in through the back door. I said, "Judge, by what authority do you overturn the standing decisions of the United States Supreme Court? You sat on the bench while I read that case law. Now, how do you, a district court judge, have the authority to overturn decisions of the Supreme Court?" He says, "Oh, those were old decisions." I said, "Those are standing decisions. They have never been overturned. I don't care how old they are. You have no right to overturn a standing decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in a district court." Hey, so Alicia, good to see you. Section 3, public law versus public policy. Y'all, now this is really important. Very, very important. He said, "Name any decision of the Supreme Court after 1938 and I'll honor it. But all the decisions you read were prior to 1938. He went on, "Prior to 1938, the Supreme Court was dealing with public law. Since 1938, the Supreme Court has dealt with public policy. The charge that Mr. S was being tried for is a public policy. The charge that Mr. S was being tried for is a public policy statute, not public law. And those Supreme Court cases do not apply to public policy." I asked him, "What happened in 1938? He said that he had already told me too much. He wasn't going to tell me anymore." Section 4, 1938, and the Erie Railroad. Well, I began to investigate. I found that 1938 was the year of the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of the Supreme Court. It was also the year the courts claimed they blended law with equity. I read the Erie Railroad case. A man had sued the Erie Railroad for damages when he was struck by a board sticking out of a boxcar as he walked alongside the tracks. The district court had decided on commercial law, negotiable instruments law, that the man was not under any contract with the Erie Railroad, and therefore he lacked standing to sue the company. Under common law, which is natural law, he was damaged, and he would have to have the right to sue. This overturned a standing decision of over 100 years. Swift v. Tyson. In 1840 was a similar case, and the decision of the Supreme Court then was that in the case of this type, the court would judge by the common law, natural law of the state where the incident occurred. In this case, Pennsylvania. In the Erie Railroad case, the Supreme Court now ruled that all federal cases will be judged under the negotiable instruments law. There would be no more decisions based on the common law at the federal level. So here we find the blending of law with equity. See, we got to do some homework, and we got to know what we're dealing with and what we're facing. And again, I would not ever tell anyone, if you want to seek counsel, seek counsel. But we have a right to know civics. We have a right to know common things that are common to man. And the Constitution of the United States, as well as the Constitution of your state, guarantees us life, liberty, and due course of law. It really does. This was a puzzle to me. As I put these new pieces together, I reasoned that all our courts since 1938 were merchant law courts and not common law courts. There were still pieces missing from the puzzle. And I'm going to stop right there because you can do some research yourselves. And you can also acquire this book. And this is the UCC Connection, How to Free Yourself. I got mine from Amazon, but this one I received special. My niece in Houston, Catchy, sent this to Toothless Tiger. Always spitting wisdom. Keep doing what you're doing. And that's what she gave me. And I did have the book, but I was so honored to receive her book. So that's Cathy W. Sent me this book. She looks at me, and I was very honored to know that she even looked. It is so much that we don't know, which takes me into what we're going to talk about tonight. And then I'll let you guys go. We're almost at 10, so we'll be over with real soon. I just want to share some things with you. I know Crystal did her homework. I don't know if anybody else looked up the words I gave you guys to look up, but I know for a fact that Crystal did, and I'm very proud of her. Then it said, okay, listen, you must have the right to sue. These laws can change in a drop of a dime. Astor, hell no, shaking my head. So Alicia is here. Well, I guess it was fun while it lasted. I'll catch y'all next time. Okay, I'm going to let y'all have y'all fun while I do my thing. Okay, I had you guys to look up certain words like automobile, like vehicle, like owner, like operator, like drive. I don't know if I told y'all to look up license or not. But, you see a lot of people on YouTube saying that, we don't need driver's license and to drive, and they go to court and they sound awfully crazy, and the judge makes them look real stupid. But there are actually some real people that have gone to court and actually walked out victorious. Now, when they walk out victorious, they don't dismiss it in front of everybody. What they normally will do is tell the people they're going to give them another court date, and then they contact them out of the presence of everybody. Because, to be real honest, they don't want us knowing the truth, and that's why it's hidden. But we have got to learn the truth and start teaching it to our children. We've got to change the way that our children view life, and especially the children in the cities who live in public housing, who belongs to the public government. It's just another way of owning people, is when you're depending on the public government. They can tell you what to do, when to do, and how to do it. When you're a private individual and you're doing the right thing, no one will tell you anything. No one has the right to commit crimes. No one has the right to steal, to kill, to hurt another. No one has that right. That's out of the order of things. You have nature's God, nature's law. And if you line yourself up with nature and become in harmony with nature, your life will begin to see a change. If you change the way you think, if your thinking is not quite right, and I'm sure in your own mind, your thinking probably be perfect. You probably have the best way of living and the best logic there is. But I bet you could get some improvement. A lot of that is in self-motivation and affirmation, manifestation. It really can happen, but it starts with the mind. It starts with your thinking. Sometimes you're going to have to let some people go. You're going to have to clip, cut them off. You have got to. Oh, thank you, Regina. You have got to get in tune with yourself. It may be lonely for a moment, but I promise you it won't stay lonely. Here's another great book that I think if you're going to start learning that you really need to possess. And I got this one also. Most of my books I buy from Amazon or I get them from Thrifty Books online, but most of them come from Amazon. And this is the only grammar book you'll ever need. I guarantee you must have a grammar book because you got to understand proper nouns. You got to understand pronouns. You got to understand semicolons. You got to understand commas, periods. And we learned all of that back in the 3rd grade, I'm sure. But do you know how long it's been since a lot of us have been in the 3rd grade? Even some of you young bucks and young ladies. You got to understand what part of speech that they're speaking in. It'll teach you things that you have forgotten, like subordinate clauses and restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, sentence functions, the basic sentence structure, choosing the right person. Like the first person, second person. It's just really a well of knowledge. It's just a well of knowledge. So this book is a must-have or one like it. Because when you start reading, and if you don't understand punctuation or the part of speech that you're in, then you're very well going to miss the mark. And you're doing this for yourself and for the children. Regina said, grammar is something you learn in elementary school. To speak properly, you need grammar and you need spelling. And that's so very true. I have so many books, so many good books. I want to just read one page out of this book, The 12 Powers of Man. The 12 Powers of Man by Charles Fillmore. The subconscious realm in man has 12 great centers of action, with 12 presiding egos or identities. When Jesus had attained a certain soul development, he called his 12 apostles to him. This means that when man is developing out of mere personal consciousness into spiritual consciousness, he begins to train deeper and larger powers. He sends his thought down into the inner centers of his organism, and through his word quickens them to life. Where before his powers have worked in the personal, now they begin to expand and work in the universal. This is the first and the second coming of Christ, spoken of in the scriptures. The first coming is the receiving of truth into the conscious mind, and the second coming is the awakening and the regeneration of the subconscious mind through the subconscious or Christ mind. Man expands and grows under divine evolution as an industrial plant grows. As the business expands, it is found that system is necessary. Instead of one man's being able to do the work with the assistance of a few helpers, he requires many helpers. Instead of a few helpers, he needs hundreds. And in order to promote efficiency, he must have heads for the various departments of the work. Scripture symbology calls the heads of departments in man's consciousness the 12 apostles. Each of these 12 department heads has control of a certain function in soul or body. Each of these heads works through an aggregation of cells that psychologically cause a ganglionic center. Jesus, the I am, or central entity, has his throne in the top head. Where phrenology locates spirituality, this is the mountain where he so often went to pray. The following outline gives a list of the 12, the faculties that they represent, and the nerve centers at which they preside. Faith, Peter, center of brain. Strength, Andrew, loins. Discrimination or judgment, James, son of Zebedee, pit of stomach. Love, John, back of heart. Power, Philip, root of tongue. Imagination, Bartholomew, between the eyes. Understanding, Thomas, front brain. Will, Matthew, center front brain. Order, James, son of Alphaeus, navel. Zeal, Simon, the Canaan, back head, medulla. And that's the Canaanian. Thank you. Renunciation of elimination, Thaddeus, abdominal region. Life conserver, Judas, generative function. Okay. I'm going to stop it right there. And I'll continue reading this probably on a video. Or we can talk about it another time. But it goes on to talk about wisdom and judgment. It's just some things we got to empower ourselves with. Power, dominion, mastery. We have got to master ourselves. We can't worry about anybody else, what nobody says, what they think. If we can start right now, me at 65, you at 40, 32, 38, whatever the age may be, And we can start teaching our young. We can change the way they act in the streets. We can stop some of this killing that goes on unmercifully for no reason. We can even stop Karen in her track because she's going to see a different person. You see, we can't really control what other people do, but we can control who we are and what we do. And sometimes, just presenting yourself in a different manner makes a difference. It really does. So Alicia said, I tried writing in cursive after years. It was horrible, but at least I did it. I feel sorry for our you. They don't even teach cursive anymore. Regina said, why was cursive writing taken out of schools and when? The reason may surprise you. Teaching first starts at home, not at a schoolhouse. That is so very true. That's where the foundation is laid, at home. Now, Regina, I don't know the reason, but I do know that they took it out right when they came up with all the rules for the new genders and the LGBTQ, RSUVWXYZ. And I surmise that they took it out because it's really good for our signature. And because all of us are numbers and they really see us as numbers, and the way they're sending us off to the penitentiary, we're numbers, that we didn't really need a signature, that all we needed to know was the number. So I don't know what the real reason was, but that was my train of thought. So if you know, please share it with us. What I wanted to share with you guys is the automobile. And what I learned from the ex-sheriff in Texas is that we have to actually read the statutes in order to know the definitions of these words. Because when you're looking at law, they generally will give you a definition for that statute. It'll tell you what this word means, this word. And so you would look for the transportation statute in your state and see what it says. And if it is not defined in the statute, then you would go to the law dictionaries. And the law dictionaries will give you the definition. And if it's not defined in the law dictionaries, then you would see it in your regular dictionary. That's the way he explained how they look at words. But if we look at an automobile is a vehicle for the transportation of persons or property on the highway, carrying its own motive power and not operated upon fixed tracks. And then because this is Black's Law Dictionary, it gave case law. And then there's a such thing as called an automobile guest. A person who is received and entertained in the automobile of another. That's a guest. And that case came out of Louisiana. Let's look at commerce, and I'm going to go back off camera. Give me a moment. Let me first thank you for the donation. I certainly appreciate that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Let me go and say thank you.
Your face. You got to remove the excess water. Now she's coming
This
out.
is how you do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go with commerce. And I really need y'all thinking for real. This is what this place is all about. Commerce. And if you look in our statutes, everything has to do with commerce. That is the Admiralty Maritime Laws. So here we go. Commerce. The exchange of goods, productions, or property of any kind. And they give case law. Intercourse by way of trade and traffic between different people or states and the citizens or inhabitants thereof, including not only the purchase, sale, and exchange of commodities, but also the instrumentalities and agencies by which it is promoted, and the means and appliances by which it is carried on, and the transportation of persons as well as of goods, both by land and by sea. Also, interchange of ideas, sentiments, etc., as between man and man. And then they give case law. Commerce, in its simplest signification, meaning exchange of goods, but in the advancement of society, labor, transportation, intelligence, care, and various mediums of exchange, become commodities and enter into commerce, the subject, the vehicle, the agent, and their various operations become the objects of commercial regulations. Please hear what that is saying. And it gives you case law. Commerce is not traffic alone, but is intercourse between nations and parts of nations in all its branches. The words commerce and trade are often used interchangeably, but strictly speaking, commerce relates to intercourse or dealings with foreign nations, states, or political communities, while trade denotes business intercourse or mutual traffic within the limits of a state or nation, or the buying, selling, and exchanging of articles between members of the same community. Can't y'all hear it? Business, vehicle. Okay, let's see what a car is. A car is a vehicle primarily intended for transportation of persons or freight, and they give case law. A carriage. A vehicle used especially for transportation of persons either for pleasure or business, and drawn by horses or other draught animals over the ordinary streets and highways of the country, not including cars used exclusively upon railroads or street railroads expressly constructed for the use of such cars. The act of carrying or contract for transportation of persons or goods. The business of carriage is that arising under contracts by which a person obligates himself for an agreed price to transport or have transported an object of some kind to a designated place, and there is case law. Carrier, one undertaken to transport persons or property, or one employed in or engaged in the business of carrying goods for others for hire. In common speech, carriers mean transportation systems as distinguished from corporations owning or operating them. And then they also have case law. Listen to what a driver is, please. Listen to what a driver is. Driver, one employed in conducting or operating a coach, carriage, wagon, or other vehicle, with horses, mules, or other animals, or a bicycle, tricycle, or motor car, though not a street railroad car. A person actually doing driving, whether employed by owner to drive or driving his own vehicle. Driving. Okay, now remember I shared with you guys that they use common everyday words that we use and they give them a different definition in law. These are legalese. We think a driver are us. We're not drivers. The first two words says one employed. First two words. Then they have a doctrine called the family purpose doctrine. You'll never know what you'll find until you start researching. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. And there are so many people that don't have the knowledge, that needs the knowledge. We're not trying to do anything but educate, plant the seed. The person has to do the work and obtain the knowledge for themselves. You cannot go by what somebody else said if you're approaching any tribunal, any court, anyone with authority. You know, one thing I learned, and I've never had to do this, but I've learned from my research and from what has happened to other people. In the state of Texas, when you're stopped by a policeman, every stop is actually an arrest. They don't tell you that, but in the law it is written. It is an arrest. But the officer has the discretion to let you go. So when you are doing all of that talking, thinking that, you know, you can talk back to the officer or you can say this or that, in the state of Texas, just know, just getting the lights turned on, you're under arrest, whether they arrest you or not. And go to the transportation code and read it. It is written. That's why it's told to you, when you're stopped, say nothing, answer the question, offer no small talk, because any and everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. But what I'm trying to show you, as I give you these definitions and you go and research them for yourself under your codes, that it does not take a license to drive. That's only for individuals who are hired out. And those are drivers. If you're not hired out, if you're just using the vehicle, the car, the automobile for your own personal use because it's yours and you want to get from point A to point B, you're not a driver. There are so many things that they tax us on and take our money, and we just don't know how we're going to make it. And they go up there and put on a show for us on Congress and in the House and in the Senate, and they act like they really care, and they be down in the council of our cities and the commissions, and they know all of this stuff. Maybe not every single thing, but they're privy to more than what we are. But yet we're privy to the very same thing because it's written and open to the people. See, one thing about people in position, They believe in my auntie Karma. And they know that everything we do, they have to get us to volunteer. Now, they can do that by any means necessary. If you read up on different laws, they're allowed to lie to you to get you to volunteer. Of course, you're not allowed to lie, and everybody say they're on the honor system. Is that really honor when they lie to you? But you should know for yourself discipline. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money while sitting at the table. It'll be room enough for counting, time enough for counting when the day is done. Regina said, side note, in order to test our understanding and knowledge truthfully and honestly, we must understand what we know without being dependent on the internet first. Then test your knowledge with resources. That's a good way to do it, Regina. This is how a person expands on their knowledge. Learn with comprehension and understanding. Question: is a person considered an individual person if they have never had a social security number? No. If they've never had a social security number, they're considered a girl, a boy, a man, or a woman. Because a person and an individual is the same, an entity. There are corporations. The 14th Amendment did that. And I good you asked that. Is it the law to have a social security number? No, they tell us it is, but it's voluntary. It is not. That's why you do and formulate businesses. Everything is done in commerce. They have EIN numbers for a business. It's very, 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 boy, it's really deep. But once you start reading and start reading with comprehension, as you said, you will be surprised. All the social security number is the number that they use against us. They use that number to generate money from us. So they definitely would not like it if we didn't operate under the social security number. Thank you, Regina. Yeah, I've been doing some work. Really, I have. I adore you too. You are awesome. But again, I just gotta tell what I can tell and help who I can help, and you gotta do your own research. Like Regina said, you gotta go from your frame of reference, and then you test your knowledge. But one thing that this gentleman that I've been looking at, Yusuf, says that the best thing you can do for yourself is start visiting the law libraries. It is so much in the law libraries. And, this is the information age. Everything is on the computer, true that. But again, like I told y'all earlier, there is so much that they don't allow us to see on the internet. You have to have a member of Westlaw. And if you're not an attorney who can pay that big fee every month, you're not going to get into Westlaw. Just like that man who tried to help his friend. He just knew he had won. And he had won back in his day. But you got to know it's so many different doctrines. And that's why I said I'm going to start doing some seminars kind of where we can have the conversation where we're not on these people platform where other people won't be lying and saying I'm giving misinformation, because everything I'm telling you, you can look it up. I'm not giving my opinion on these things. These things are written so that we may know. Again, 1 John, if you read the word, then truly search the scriptures. It's there. It is written, agree with thine adversary quickly. Because one of the things that you want to always make sure you do as you start embarking on being you, whoever you are, the authentic you want to make sure that you're in honor at all times. You want to realize that there is no money. The Federal Reserve notes are just that, notes. They're negotiable instruments. And you need to know that. Pull out your money and see, does it say Federal Reserve notes? Because that's what it says. 1933, I believe it was, when the gentleman took away all the gold and started with the Federal Reserve. It could have been, I think it's 1933. Could have been 1913. I'm going to look and make sure, because I know in 1913, when Noble Drew Ali formed the Moorish Science Temple, I know that the country was bankrupt because so many people started declaring their nationality. But see, time has moved on, and we got to do more than that. We got to learn how to live like Americans. I'm talking about Americans. That's who we are. We're indigenous to this land. And rules and regulations are put in place to keep a people civilized. But if you don't know your rules and regulations, it is said ignorance of the law is no excuse. And it is not. Because if you can't get into Westlaw, you can visit a law library. And every main library, your city's library, every main library has a law section, and your state capital would have the best law library. You can even go online and become a member of your library and get access to these different things. Online, you never have to leave your home. Even the Library of Congress. You don't have to take anybody's word for it. All I want to do is give you the keys and the seeds and the thought to say, I'm up here complaining about all these bills and all of this. It's a way that we can get out from under a lot of this. And it's not illegal and it's not unlawful. It is truly the American way. We just don't know it. Esar said there is a lot of amazing knowledge being shared on this show. 100, 100. Oh, Esar, you're going to make me start crying. Wish more people get to see this. A lot of great info. Thank you, Esar. You're going to make me cry. Remind me of a brown skin lady talking about that girl need to clean her nose. Hold on a minute, Esar, y'all. I got to go home mute for a minute. I know exactly what she means when she says that. I know exactly what she means. I hear the same thing, and it's really nerve-wracking, but I do understand. Thank you so much, Esar. I love you back. But I didn't know that there was a family purpose doctrine. There is a family purpose doctrine. And the family purpose doctrine is a doctrine that the owner of a car who gives it over to the use of his family and permits it to operate to be operated by the members thereof is liable for the injuries inflicted while being operated by a member of the family. Now, we knew that truly, happens, but I didn't know that there was such a thing called a doctrine. Thank you, Esar. Esar said, I'm speaking facts. True that. Thank you, As. But they got case law that proves what this is saying. The doctrine that the owner of an automobile purchased or maintained for the pleasure of his family is liable for injuries inflicted by the machine while being used by the members of the family for their own pleasure. License. This is going to get interesting. License. Certificate or the document itself which gives permission or authority. Now remember, the right to travel is a right. It's an unalienable right given to you at birth. Rights cannot be given or taken away. They're suppressed. We're not getting to enjoy our rights, but they can't be given or taken away. So nobody has to give us permission to the right to be. They don't have to do that. Then to license means to confer right or power which does not exist without it. Intercity coach lines versus Harrison. That's the case. Permission to do a particular thing, to exercise a certain privilege, or to carry on a particular business, or to pursue a certain occupation. Remember what I told y'all a driver was? Employed. So the driver needs a license. And Esar, the operator and owner, there has to be 2 licenses. For the owner, it's called the franchise license. And the operator is the one who's actually doing the actual driving. So there are 2 different licenses that are needed. They're franchised. It's so amazing what our people have done to us in the name of protecting and taking care of us. And they're always telling us they're looking out for the American people. Well, the only American people it appears that they're looking out for is them and their family, because they know this truth. We are not privy to it. I guarantee you, if we could start getting, like Esar said, people that are hungry, that live where the guns are going off every day in their neighborhood, if we could get them interested in books and reading and get them to get together as families and make it a project or a game or whatever they need to do to start learning together, I guarantee you we could see some changes in our communities in a week. We could see some changes, honestly. Let's keep going. Motor carries. A grant by State Commerce Commission of petition for certificate of convenience and necessity to operate as motor carry is the grant of a license. And then they have case law. City having right to regulate use of its streets by motor vehicles for hire may issue license, a license being permission. Oh, one day we're going to learn this stuff here. We're going to learn it, and we got to learn it. Motor vehicles license. To operate motor vehicle is mere privilege and not a contract or property right. And that's case law. Municipal. A lot of people don't understand the municipalities and how it works in the inner city so much different than it works outside of the inner city. And see, Congress they can give power to different judges and to different bodies of government. And that's where they come up with all of these good policies and procedures, but no policy and no procedure supersedes the law of the land, which is known as the common law. And they took us from the land and put us into admiralty, which is commerce, and maritime, which is of the sea. And we're all walking around here or driving on land. Regina said, Esar, unfortunately, a lot of people do not want to seek knowledge. They rather listen to foolishness and live in bubbles. They rather fight for things that are not purposeful. That is so true, Regina. And it is so sad, but it is so true. So we can't wait for them to come. We just got to go with what we got. And as we acquire the knowledge and we talk with others, share what we've learned, and make sure that we go and we research so that we know this from our inner being and not just something Toothless said or somebody told Toothless or she heard it on somebody's show. Because trust me, the people that I hear this information from that sends me to the books running and reading and researching, they have lived these lives. And most of them came from being incarcerated. So they've had lives that were just, most of them did things that, we're not proud of, sold drugs. Some have even commit, murders and things of that nature. But they've served their time and they're out and they decided for themselves they wanted to do something different. They've learned so many different things and so deep into some stuff that, I can just touch the surface. But we know what we know, and we don't have to worry about what we don't know compared to somebody else. But we do need to try to find out things that we don't know for ourselves, not for other people, not to compare wits, because it's up to the individual how far you will go. All we can do is plant the seed. The watering and the growing up is going to come from Most High. It's not going to come from us. Your desire inside to know different and to want to be different will take you on a journey that you won't regret. If you ever start on this journey of learning truth and being true to yourself, you will not want to turn back. I can guarantee you that. Regina said there is absolutely nothing wrong with chewing the fat and shooting the breeze, with much to do about nothing most of the time. But knowing and understanding the difference is key. Focus. So true, Regina. So true. Municipality. Well, let's go with municipal charter. A legislative enactment conferring governmental powers of the state upon its local agencies. And that case law is State versus Thompson. Okay, Maria, drive safely. Municipality. A legally incorporated or duly authorized association of inhabitants of limited area for local governmental or other public purposes. And then they give the case law. A body politic created by the incorporation of the people of a prescribed locality, invested with subordinate powers of legislation to assist in the civil government of the state and to regulate and administer local and internal affairs of the community. And they go on to give the case law. Now, naturalization is something I told y'all we were going to discuss, which is very important because when you go to the Constitution, let me try to get back to that place. Remember, Congress has the power to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. Something about that word. Let's get over here. Norma Drew Ali said that the 13th and the 14th and the 15th Amendment is not needed for us to free ourselves. He told us to get back in the honor of our mothers and fathers. Start thinking the way they thought. And start living. And it will download it will come back to you. The things that have been pressed down and suppressed. And I believe that. Let's go with the 13th Amendment. This is the short version, but you really need to hear this. Regina said the key is no matter where life takes you, always be true to you. To be more specific, never lie to yourself and get lost in your own self-inflicted delusionment. So very true. That's what happens to a lot of us. Asatar said, Regina M., I don't understand why they can't do both. Gain knowledge and also at times be into the foolishness. Unfortunately, it's the herd mentality. Some individuals probably really do want to do both, but they don't want the backlash. It's just according to where they are as people. But see, it's just like heaven. They said everybody ain't gonna go. Everybody don't want to go, and everybody ain't gonna make it. So this type of knowledge, my type of videos, is for whosoever will. Let them come. And if nobody comes, then somebody out there in, hopefully at home, like Kathy and others in the Dallas area that are looking, and perhaps they have nothing to say and nothing to offer and nothing to give. But if they hit the like button and if they take notes, they'll have a lot to gain. Regina said, Asatar, people can scroll up to where I wrote the comment beginning with, there is absolutely nothing wrong. And she not talking about with a little bump and grind. She said there is absolutely nothing wrong with chewing the fat and shooting the breeze, with much to do about nothing most of the time. But knowing and understanding the difference is key. Focus. So true, Regina. We're going to get ready to wind down, but I'm going to finish this with the 13th Amendment. And listen to what I'm saying now. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Okay. Except as punishment for crime. The new plantation. Number 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. And then we do remember back in the day when our current president was in Congress and we were known as super predators. We're going to close with the 14th Amendment because we got to get to naturalization. The 14th Amendment was created strictly for the coloreds. And mind you, this was after the democracy was introduced. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Well, the citizens of the United States exist on paper. The United States exists in Washington, D.C. on paper and a 10-mile radius. So we don't live in Washington, D.C. We're man, woman, boy, girl. Did you know that the government is now having training on pronouns, on what people want you to call them? It's really sad. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Now, isn't that something? Now, naturalization, let me give you the definition, and I'm going to give you the definition of person, and then that'll be it. We'll do some of the other words. We have a few more words, but we can do that later. We've been here 2.5 hours almost. Let's listen to the definition of naturalization. The act of adopting a foreigner and clothing him with the privileges of native citizens. And everybody wonder how people come and get all of the money and all of the contracts and all of the businesses. Collective naturalization. This takes place where a government, by treaty or cession, and that secession, acquires he, whole, or part of the territory of a foreign nation and takes to itself the inhabitants thereof. Listen now. Y'all better hear what they saying. By treaty or secession, acquires, it says he. I don't know if they mean he or thee, but it says he, whole, or part of the territory of a foreign nation and takes itself the inhabitants thereof, clothing them with the rights of citizenship, either by the terms of the treaty or by the subsequent legislation. Now, don't it make you wonder when everybody keep talking about all these people coming over here and they sending money over there? Do that kind of make you think something different about what that could really mean? Huh? Do that make you wonder? Do it make you wonder? Now, I just wonder, where did all the confusion come from about using pronouns and what to call a person comes from? No wonder people are misusing words and their meanings improperly today. Catch it. Okay. Naturalize. To confer citizenship upon an alien. To make a foreigner the same in respect to rights and privileges as if he were a native citizen or subject. Yes, Madria. Naturalized citizen. One who, being an alien by birth, has received citizenship under the laws of the state or nation. Now, I just want y'all to think about that naturalization and go back and read the 14th Amendment. And then we're going to do this person, so we'll understand the person. In law, person. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. So you know they're not talking about the one that's poor. Okay? The word in its natural and usual signification includes women as well as men. And then they give you the case law. Term may include artificial beings as corporations, quasi-corporations, territorial corporations, school districts, foreign corporations, under statutes forbidding the taking of property without due process of law and giving to all persons the equal protection of the laws. All persons. And remember, persons are corporations. Hey, Angie, corporations. They're also partnerships, associations. And then they give a slew of case law concerning claims arising from Indian depredations. And see, Title 25 is for the Indians, which is actually what they did to us is took away our heritage and gave it to a whole nother group of people. A group of people, some of them are us, but they started mixing, and then they started selling $5 Indian ships where they could become Indians. And then they made laws that said if you had any ounce of our blood in your system, then you couldn't benefit from any of the treaties and the arrangements that they made with the Indians. As we know, there is no such thing as Indians. They have actual tribal names. And so they are us, we are they. But that's another story for another day. But all you got to do is research. Relating to taxation and the revenue laws. And they got the case law for that. Usurious contracts. Philadelphia Loan Company, they had a lawsuit about that. Applying to limitation of actions. And concerning the admissibility as a witness of a party in his own behalf when the opposite party is a living person. Okay? That's the case. A corporation is also a person under a penal statute. And the penal statute means criminal. Corporations are persons as the word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. So they're letting us know. That's where the straw man came to be. And nobody never really talks about the straw man if you're talking law, but you have to learn about the straw man, which is the name that you have. If you look at your Social Security card or your driver's license or your bills, you'll see an all cap name. That's why it's very important to have the grammar book, because you know to spell in all caps is not the perfect grammatical way to spell. You spell with the capital letter and lowercase. So that's what that's about. Regina said, my God, so many thoughts, so little time, because we all know we can go deep and deeper in knowledge from all here, but we should save it for another day. We're going to get our hungry for knowledge. Yes, ma'am, we are, and we're going to come back ready, whatever, y'all. I'm going to have the rest of these words and stuff and a little bit more, and anything you guys want to add to the conversation, you know I'm all for it. Regina, I just love it when you come. You and Asatar add so much to the conversation. But this is Meet Your Straw Man. And whatever you want to know, we the people. And then again, that's my other Meet Your Straw Man. Where's my book I had with the UCCs? I just had it. Here it is. The UCC Connection. These books are about $5 or $6, $7 at Amazon. They're not much at all. Yeah, because we didn't get to transportation. Well, let me just finish, y'all. Transportation and travel. With the corporation, they go by persona. And in persona, in the civil law, is a character in virtue of which certain rights belong to a man and a certain duties are imposed upon him. Thus, one man may unite many characters, as for example, the characters of a father and son, of master and servant. And you know how they used to wear the mask? That's a persona, that's the straw man. Transportation. Transportation, the removal of goods or persons from one place to another by a carrier. And remember, all of that has to do with commerce. Travel, to go from one place to another at a distance. To journey, spoken of voluntary, change of place. And then they have the case law. And then we have traveled way. The traveled path, or the path used for public travel within located limits of the way. And then it goes on to tell us a traveler is one who passes from place to place, whether for pleasure, instruction, business, or help. And they give you the case law. That's a traveler. So we are travelers on the highways, but they have us thinking that we are actually drivers. And we know from the first two words that's a person that is hired. Can anyone replaying this live be able to see comments and links that have been shared? Yes, they can. It takes a few days before they can. So if you want to go back and take away anything you can, or if you want to add anything you can. Yeah, Esar, I figured out how it works. Yeah, the UCC connection, and then I don't know if you saw this one, Regina. Meet your straw man. And I would really, really, really suggest, and I've suggested this before. I don't know if anybody have ever done it, but I suggest that you guys start reading and studying the Constitution, especially Article 1, Section 8, where commerce is telling us what Congress has the right to do, and how they can delegate powers. And then we'll talk about one day the Article 3 courts, which are the federal judges, and then how they have all of the other subordinate judges, or Article 1 courts. It's really, really, really interesting. And I guarantee you, if you ever give yourself to one of these subjects and start just researching that subject, they call it the rabbit hole. You could go down, down, baby. You really could. But on that note, I'm going to play our little children of the future. We're not going to ever forget them. Matter of fact, we're going to try to teach them, and hopefully somebody will spread the word. I'm going to share my video. Maybe nobody will look at it. Maybe some will. Esar, we never know about these people. But it's not because it's not available. And I hope that, they would pay my commercials and play them. But, you never know what YouTube is going to do these days. And so I can't complain. I'm just going to do what I came here to do. And that is to share. On that note, I'm so glad, Andrew, you were able to make it. Although you're at the end, if you can, 8:15 Central Standard Time. I don't know what time that is, your time. But if you can't, try to go back and catch the replay. I think you'll be interested in the video. I think you really will like it, Angie. And on that note, I'm going to say good night to everybody. I'm getting ready to leave the Tiger's Den. Thank everybody for hitting the like button. Thank you for the donation, and have a beautiful, beautiful night. I'll see you guys. It's today, what, Sunday? I'll see you guys Wednesday, and we'll have more fun and more to talk about. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us who we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I failed, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of takes you to a lonely place, find yourself in love. Justice for CJ, a son, brother, father, uncle. Up drove the hearse Cadillac. A crowd of people gathered round, all dressed in black. And as they removed his body from the car, such pain she never knew had filled her heart. It happened on an early Saturday morning when the noise from the phone really disturbed her. She wasn't too sure at first just what the caller meant when they informed her that there had been an incident. Why, oh why, the sound of a mother's cry as she gathered herself and wiped the tears from her eyes. Somebody asked who was the next of kin. But oh Lord, was the beginning of her end. March 17th, 2018. CJ will forever be 22 years young. Justice for CJ. In a mother's love, you will find everything. Everything's alright. To a mother's love, you are bound. You can rest on sacred ground. You are free to dream, because she sees what you can be. Did you know that mental health is a family affair? It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, one child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mama loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood thicker than the mud. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Oh, a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave because your heart is there. But you can't stay because you've been somewhere else. You can't cry because you look broke down, but you're crying anyway because you're all broke down. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, it's a family affair. Hey, hey, hey.